Okay.
Okay. Hi, Sara.
Hi, Molly.
You nervous? That's what you said?
Yes, I wanted to eat my face off before this.
Ain't that the way?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think you're nervous about?
I think if I'm going to be honest, I think I'm nervous about what I'm going to sound like to other people.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel that way all the time. I'm always doing it. So we put out the note and said, who wants to come on? And you said me.
Yeah.
I want to do some coaching. And I was like, count me in. So you start. What are we coaching?
Okay. Yeah. So I've been 4 months sugar and flour free, other than one little mishap. And just got right back on it the next day. But what I'm noticing is that the minute that I get stressed, especially at work, I think, because I work alone usually, so I can really notice it, that I want to eat my next meal. And even though I'm sugar and flour free, I'm still wanting to do that. And yeah, it's really uncomfortable.
So are you eating when you have that urge?
No, I just, but it's still there.
Oh my God. This is going to be the shortest podcast of all time. It's official. People are going to look and they're going to be like, why is what you're craving 6 minutes this week? Wait, it's such a funny thing. It's such a disease of perception because you think that's a problem. And I think you're amazing. What are we missing? I'm not kidding. I'm like, because it's funny, like you make it sound, so 4 months is 120 days. How many years were you sort of letting the disorder run the roost? More than 120 days?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like how many are we talking? Like,
I mean, I went on my first diet when I was in the 3rd grade. I remember.
So we can clock that around 8, and then like ish. So how many years are we talking that you've been sort of?
It's like 25 years.
Okay. It's the thing is that it's like when we take these cravings so seriously is when they become problematic. Like now, listen, I'm not saying like, you're having a craving to eat more and we should be like, yeah, that's amazing. Like, I'm so excited about this. This is wonderful. But there's a lot of really interesting things happening for you this way in. And I wonder what this feeling, I hate the word annoyance, I don't even let it into my sessions, but what do you think the feeling is that you're having when these desires to eat more food come up? What would you say the feeling is?
I don't know if uncomfortable is a feeling.
It's close. Sure. You feel uncomfortable. Can you like unpack that a little?
Yeah, I feel uncomfortable. I feel like I want to make it go away. I feel that I want to numb out.
Well, doesn't that make all the sense in the world? I mean, I want to sort of level set this because again, we've started this session by saying, you think this is a problem. I think you're amazing. We're going to try to find in DBT, we'd say, what are we missing? And we need to find the middle path here. I have a really good feeling about that. What I find is really interesting, like I would imagine this feeling that you're having is probably the oldest feeling in the playbook of your relationship with food. I'd also imagine that this feeling that you're having, with the exception of the last 120 days, 119 days, always got what it wanted. Right? Like you'd be working from home, you'd have to finish lunch, you'd want more, and then you'd be like, all right, just a handful of blueberries, or okay, just like a little bit more of this. Is that true?
Actually, what I would do before is I would drink, I'm a really good restrictor. I've been I'm a good restrictor, and I'm a good,
Hey, let's not sign that contract today. I used to be a good restrictor. Maybe.
mhm,
What, you want to try something different so that we don't, we
yeah,
don't align with that wound today, not in
yeah,
service of your long-term goals.
I used to be a good restrictor. I really like that. I'm glad that you told me to put it
Yeah.
that way.
I'm like your attorney and your coach. I wouldn't sign that contract today.
So what I would do if I was uncomfortable and that feeling came up and I wanted to eat, and even when I was legitimately hungry, I started to get in this habit of just drink another diet soda.
Okay.
Um, just, just fill it with something.
But the point is that never in your life have you just had neutrality with it and sat with it like you have these last 190
No,
days.
yeah, I haven't.
Right. And so I guess my proposal for you, because actually, I think miracles are happening personally. That is such a hard thing to do that you're doing right now. I mean, it's like you have the most incredible construction team making you a really fast snow groove, given what you're doing, given that there's 25 years that you respond in some unhealthy way to this emotional urge to eat, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And for the first time in your life, you're like it sounds like you're following one of the vows, which is like, there's a time to eat and there's not a time to eat. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
we're just going to sit through this. And it is really uncomfortable, but it's amazing what you're doing. What did you want me to say? What did you think I was going to say? To eat?
I mean, that would be great.
Like, what? Add a snack.
I honestly thought that I was gonna like that there would be now, okay, here's the tools for you to not have to be uncomfortable.
Okay, well,
But
we can do that too. But the first thing I want to do, oh yeah, we'll get to that. But the first thing I think we need to do is shift the script. Because, if you think about it, if you think about this little urge, this sweet little emotion that's coming up, and it's trying to tell you something, maybe, or it's a feeling, or it's a desire to be numbed. And you're just like, oh, get away. Like if it was a little kid knocking on the door, wanting you to read it a story, and you were like, oh, you again. Like, come, like, oh, enough with this urge after, like, in my experience, that really teaches a kid to escalate its behavior or harm in other ways, or right. So I think there's a piece that I would love for you to consider shifting over to what I'm talking about, which is like, can we celebrate the idea that you're doing this completely differently, that you have a really bright line on this behavior that it sounds like might be what I call like a termite behavior. This might be the way that you get back into the sugar and the flour and eating in a way that doesn't align with you is in this sort of bite, lick, taste after the meal, right? Like all of these, they're really sneaky behaviors. I mean, takes one to know one, right? But I think how you're receiving it, like, what could you do that? Like, could you say, okay, I understand why this is coming up, because for 25 years I've numbed this and it wants to be numbed. Like, could you do that? Could you shift how you perceive this?
yeah, I definitely could. And I think that's another thing with my journey is that I don't know if I'm in full acceptance that I mean, I'm doing the
Right.
things. I'm doing the things to don't think that I've come into acceptance yet that this is like this is my issue now.
Tell me more.
I don't think I've fully accepted that well, I'm sober, so there's that part of it. So that, I accept that. I accept that that is no longer going to be a part of my life. It doesn't bother me anymore. It's just it is what it is. But this too, um yeah, I haven't fully accepted it yet. I don't think that
I'm so
this
I'm
is
so curious that it's like the anger keeps on coming up. Like you're
mm-hmm.
angry that the craving's coming up. Like you're angry that you haven't accepted it. Like, I just want to say that amount of people that I've helped in my life that are abstinent from alcohol and have this low grade rage at the food that they can't have the same experience that they have with fully abstaining. But if you really dig into it just a little bit, it's like, well, obviously you can't have the same experience of it because you eat every day. Right? And there is this real like lock and key conception with many people who stop drinking alcohol that you can't have with the food. Even if you have the brightest of the lines, it still is just a very different, it's like, they say in Buddhism, like same, but different. And I wonder, I love that set aside prayer. Do you?
Yeah.
Help me to set aside everything I think I know about my recovery with food. Help me set aside everything I think I know about this relationship, about food itself, about the recovery process, so that I can know a new truth. Because my, long experience is that this is if I had to say like what was boiling underneath here, it's a big binge. Because that's what that, like that's what sort of that anger creates. I speak I speak what I know, right? It's like, this sucks and I can't stop having cravings and it isn't as easy as the alcohol and I still did it and I'm not in acceptance. And then it's like the oat bar crosses my path and it only has 9 grams of sugar. And it's not that bad. And right. And then, right. And so it's like an interesting inroads that the saboteur in you is taking on this, right? One of them being, I'll just say it. That's what you hired me for, right? I feel like we're making problems when there aren't any. It's just like your problem is my celebration. It's such a disease of perception, isn't it? Like, it's an interesting idea. Let me just say it. I'll explain it to you. Like, I think it's amazing. I would want to send you one of those texts where the confetti comes out of the text after lunch every single day, being like, again, you had the craving and you didn't do anything. You're amazing. Confetti, right? And like, honestly, I don't know if we're both the same. Like, you shouldn't be in acceptance after 120 days. You've been doing this for 25 years. Why do you think after 4 months, a part of you that can really trust something is for real is going to be like, totally, this is the one, like, and there's this piece with the alcohol. I don't know. I too am recovering. And I had that same knowing. I was like, I mean, whatever, as my spiritual advisor always says, when you think you know something, that's when you're about to lose it. But in a safe context, it's like, yeah, I get that. I get that one. There's never really a big negotiation. And if there's a big negotiation, it's a real flag in the flag on the field, right? With the food, it's so different. And so the acceptance becomes different. And let me tell you something. You don't have to accept it to do it. And you know that. It sounds like you're just wishing that there was an easier experience for you, huh?
Yeah. I just wish that I guess my fear around the voice coming up of like, oh, you should eat again, you should eat again, you should eat again. I don't want that to take over one day. And I mean, because I could still binge on my sugar and flour free foods just as easily. I mean, I could eat some Ezekiel bread with almond butter and bananas and eat myself into oblivion. And I think one thing too is like I think that the food is so much more for me. It's so much more shameful than my alcohol addiction is. I have so much more shame around the food piece than my alcoholism.
What is the shame about?
Just that whole that gluttonous, like I kind of perspective, like how insidious it is, like how just ugly it is. And in our culture, I feel like it's more accepted to have an addiction to drugs or alcohol than it is to food.
And so the shame is about external validation. The shame is about other people accepting that you have this. Like, what would make you feel less discontent in this relationship? I mean, it comes through the Zoom screen, and that's, let's try to heal it. Like, it comes through the Zoom screen.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, like, I'm not so sure how like that alcohol addiction is so accepted, but we can talk about that on another podcast. Like, it might be a story you're telling. I want to highlight that for you.
So what was the question? I'm sorry.
Well, what would lessen your discontent about all of this? I mean, this worry you're having is not a form of preparation. Like, it's doing nothing but bringing you closer to sabotage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what would make it easier in my perfect world is if more people were talking about it, if more people lived their lives this way, if more people, I think if I was surrounded with just people that struggled with the same, like in my everyday life, which I definitely do need to work on the power circle for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, I wanted to be like, okay, well, I have like 15 people I could set you up with this minute. Like, yeah, you probably need like
Yeah, I do.
exponential more people in your life that support you. When I was first at this, oh my God, I could only talk to people who were doing the same thing as me. Right. And even with alcohol, I'm a big circle girl. Like, the circles really serve me. Yeah. I think it might be a great idea if we get you. I mean, do they have to be in your current, I mean, can we say that we can add people to your circle? Because if the people in your
Oh
circle,
yeah.
oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Would you be willing to do that in a super brave way, like reaching out to people and putting a
Yeah.
flag up on a Facebook group and then
Yeah,
calling them? Like, do you
definitely.
have that skill from breaking up with alcohol?
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, I definitely do.
Okay. Well, we can solve for that. So I think that would change a lot if I always think about this idea of consumption, not just with food, but with who we're surrounding ourselves with. And it sounds like you are with a lot of people who maybe don't understand how challenging having this disordered eating pattern is. What's happening there?
Yeah.
What's the problem? Like, what are you experiencing with people?
I mean, my husband's really supportive, for sure, even though he doesn't have this issue.
That's great.
But I work with all men, and yeah, none of them have this issue, and I don't talk about it a lot. Of course, when I was in like my first month or so, I was like day one, day two, and I had a couple people that were super, excited for me, but as far as understanding it, there's, and I'm there at least 40 hours a week. So,
Yeah, I don't know that we can expect our coworkers.
yeah, of
That
course.
may just be, again, like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, I would like really urge you, the conditions you're putting on your availability to be happy in this. I want you to
Mhm.
look at that, right? Because in my experience too, like, can we see if there's a possibility that we can create you a landing pad that's a little softer, but with less conditions?
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Yours is like a teeny little square. You're like, I want no cravings. I need people who I
I
work with to
do.
understand what I'm doing. I need
Hmm.
it to I need like a guarantee I'll be okay. Like, it's just a little teeny square. And I know just from years and years of doing this and years of having this, it's really a little bit of a binge waiting to happen, right? Because we can get so hysterical over this need, over this desire, that like we're in the food before we know it. We want to prevent that because you're just doing so amazingly, right? So I think the first thing would be like, there are people in that Facebook group. You can easily find a crew, and I will totally help you with that offline. I will set you up with the exact people that you need to know. And then if you want to row from there, I promise you the universe will steer. I think that will change everything for you. Okay. That's our
Okay.
first note. Okay. Our second note is going to be harder for you because you're talking about shame, and that shame idea should have already mastered everything. I think a lot of what's happening for you when you're having that craving after lunch is a shame response, right? Because it's just messing with your serenity, and you're like, oh God, if I don't have, right. It just gets us so hysterical. It really does, right? It gets us so dysregulated. And I think how you're approaching that hysteria and dysregulation is making it worse, not better.
Yeah.
Right. Because you really need some validation in that moment. You need some self-validation of like, of course, and I'm awesome. I'm not going to eat. I'm going to go distract myself, which you and I will talk about in a second. I'm going to go do some self-soothing, some distracting. I'm going to go take care of myself in a way that doesn't harm me. Because for the last 25 years, when I've had this urge, I've done it in a way that's incredibly distracting and brings me farther away from my own personal serenity, right? Like,
yes.
And to those of you, filling yourself up with carbonated diet, artificial sweetened beverage is harmful, but every gut expert would agree with that in and of themselves, right? That it's just a gut killer. Okay. And then I feel like I know it's really antithetical to shame because shame is protecting us from rejection, right? And so we self-reject before we get rejected by the plan we're on. But I think you're missing out by not celebrating yourself and not yahooing yourself. I mean, you're holding on pretty tight to these 120 days in a way that I think you're going to drop it soon. So I'm actually so excited we had this coaching session, like talk about divinity, right? Like I think you need to hold on looser. You have to get you holding on to this thing in a way that it's not going to, as they say in those circles, like white knuckling it. I think you're white knuckling it because you've never had success like this. And that makes a ton of sense, but we have to get you in a different space with it because the recovery from alcohol hold doesn't work on the food. The credits don't transfer. They just don't. They're really similar, but the grip is very different.
Okay.
So what questions do you have about that treatment plan?
I don't know if I have any questions. I just am really glad. I'm really glad, like you said too, that we had this talk because it really feels like I have been white knuckling. And Memorial Day was when I had my slip, and the next day I was really amazed at like the conversation I was having with myself of like, it's okay, we're just gonna go right back and it's no big deal. And that was amazing. But before it happened, I was, in very much of like, I wish that I could go and do this. I wish I could be like everybody else. I wish I could, all these things. So I just, I'm really grateful that, and I have been applying what I did to get sober to this too, of, I've been applying those techniques that I used in this fashion. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out, that it's different.
Oh, it's so different. And honestly, I'm going to set you up with some people in Breaking Up with Sugar who are double winners, as we like to say, right? And I think every single one of us would agree with that. Anybody I know who's a double winner would say, same general concept, completely different action, completely different integration, because listen, there's a whole sect of the population who can't stay sober and have more of the harm reduction approach to staying sober, right? And they don't count days and all of that. But with food, an error is inevitable. And so it's this really beautiful dance of attempting to do your best all of the time in every minute, really trying to have a level of adherence, and then also understanding that you won't, right? And trying to keep your eye on that circle of not doing it to adherence, to staying as small as possible, and the circle of doing it, in a way that really honors your integrity, as sort of the numbers staying the highest over there and lower in the other one. And like, that's so unlike alcohol, right? Alcohol, you're like, all right, I put it down. Let's talk about fear now. Let's talk about, and that's just not how it is with the food. And the other thing I want to say is Marty Lerner, my mentor, always says, feelings fade over time when they're not re-stimulated. And so I think there's a part of alcohol where a lot of times and many occasions when people quit alcohol, they quit being around alcohol, right? Like you sort of stop going to bars, you stop going to parties, and in that way that it does kind of pass, right? But understand this thing that you came to me for, this really annoying craving, like you can't stop eating, right? Like, even though it's different quality of food, even though it's all these different things, like you're still doing the thing. And so of course you're not going to have the neutrality that you're hoping for so soon, right? Here's one other sort of more tactical idea. After lunch, can you go do something physical? Like the minute you're done eating? Can you take yourself on a walk? Can you go do 50 squats? Can you go do like some breath work I want you to change your state after you eat. I want you to try to break that particular craving / habit. I think we can actually work with that particular thing. I don't think we have to be like, hey girl, what's up? I know you want to eat if you don't want to. I think that craving can come up. Like you can finish lunch. It happens right after lunch. When does it happen?
It's mostly after breakfast, actually.
Great. So when you're done with breakfast, what are you eating for breakfast?
So I'm doing the third cup of oats with some chia seeds and like 3 hard-boiled eggs for now.
Would you want to try something different? Would you try something different? Are you feeling unsatisfied with your level of fullness?
If I ask myself, am I actually hungry? The answer is no.
Okay. So can you schedule in like a meeting where you're walking, or can you schedule in like 20 minutes where you're moving your body after you eat?
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually think that might, like move a muscle, change a thought. Like that might be really helpful. And if you can't, like, even if you like have some like heavy dumbbells near you, if you just do like 6 squats, just getting something to change your physical state, I think would really make a difference here.
Okay.
And then, though not the cravings come around other times, like there's a chance, I think, also to do, things like, I do think you want to, unless you're in a meeting, I do think you want to try to go do something that's going to change your state in general. That's really the way to get cravings away, whether that's ice on your neck, whether that's doing, you either need to up level or down level, right? So you probably just to change the state. So whether that's something relaxing or whether that's something activating, you don't have to just sit with it.
Okay.
What are you going to try?
I think I'm going to try the movement. That's been such a big part of my life, and I can definitely see it working. One thing that I had been trying to do was like to listen to myself to what's really going on. Yeah. And it just seems like it brings up more uncomfortable feelings that I can't really address fully in the middle of a work day.
I think that's really reasonable. Yeah. I don't know if this might be unpopular opinion. I just don't think 4 months is that long. I feel like you're trying to do like this advanced algebra with yourself because you don't drink, and like your spirit's like needs a bit of a more like elementary, sweeter, easier, gentler approach to this problem. Like, I get it. It's really dialectic. On one hand, you never in your life thought you'd have 120 days of doing anything loving to yourself with food. And on the other hand, like that's just a little teeny amount of time, any good outcome study on addiction is a year, not to stress you out. You're doing amazingly. I just think you are having this expectation of yourself that is interfering with your serenity, which is interfering with your motivation. And I just don't know how well-founded it is. I would be celebrating you every single day.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I would be celebrating, literally, I would be like, who is the greatest? I am the greatest. Who is the greatest? I am the greatest. Like every minute of your life.
Okay.
Can you try to do that too? Do you journal at all?
Yeah.
I would think every single day, why don't you try to like journal 3 things you're like super proud of in this food recovery every day and see in the morning and see Because what you're doing is you're journaling to your shame. You're saying you can chill today. I'm proud of these things, and it's keeping you in your wise mind. It's keeping perspective. 25 years into the forest. It's not going to be 4 months out of the forest. And don't try to be doing all of these advanced, like, what am I really feeling? But right. Like, you can distract. That's fine. They'll let you know when they're ready.
Okay.
Amazing. I feel like this is like a great sesh.
Yeah.
Got a lot done in 30 minutes, wouldn't you say?
I would say so. Yeah, definitely.
I want you to get into that Facebook group and, let people know this is going on. Cause I think it's really an incredibly inspiring story, although you thought it was problematic. Ain't perspective something?
Yeah, it is.
All right, Mom, I think we're good to go from here. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
I think so. Thank you so much.
Well, keep us updated.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.